On today's episode of the Carolina Sports Guy, we're going to be talking about Carolina Panthers and their playoff losses. Yes, 17 playoff games, 9 wins. Fortunately, going to cover the 8 losses. Some of them expected, some of them just can't forgive. Can't forgive the coaches for these. To talk about this, we're also going to be sharp cheese, vanilla wafers. It's a little treat, a little snack. So a lot of times when we're watching a ball game, folks, this isn't sponsored by Nabisco. When I was a kid watching sports, sometimes I want a little treat. My mom would give me some sharp cheese and a vanilla wafer. Put it between 2 vanilla wafers. Cheesy taste mixed with sweetness vanilla of the cookie. If you haven't tried it as a snack, it's great. Makes a great hors d'oeuvre, whatever you want to call it. It's just a great little snack. And on football Sundays, it's just something that kind of is a comfort food. And if you haven't tried it yet, don't knock it. Try it one time and trust me, unless you don't like sharp cheese or if you don't like vanilla wafers, you're going to love this. Before we get into today's content, I want you to subscribe. Doesn't cost anything, folks. Hit that, pound that like button. Let me know you like videos like these, as we do other videos for the Panthers, Charlotte Hornets, Carolina Hurricanes, and major college sports in North and South Carolina. Hit that bell notification so you can be notified of future content like what's in today's video. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you'd like to see in future videos. Alright, folks, the reason why I decided to do this is not really a mukbang, but I decided, hey, you know, this is something that I grew up with. Was my mom fix a snack. She'd take a big block of sharp cheese, take some vanilla wafers, and she would cut them up. And I would take a piece of sharp cheese in between the vanilla wafers. It makes for a very, very good snack. It's just something to kind of hold you over if you're getting ready to eat after the game or pre-game meal or at halftime or maybe you're nibbling at a party. This is a great snack. If you haven't had it, please try it. Please do so. It is a very good snack. Like I said, if you tried it, great. If you've never tried this before, please take my advice. Try it. And it really makes for a good, whether it be a Super Bowl party, a playoff party, or just some regular season football game. Just put some of these Nilla wafers out, put the sharp piece of cheese cut up in between it, depending on how thick you like it. We normally like mine a little thicker than this, but how thick you want it, and you'll get that vanilla cookie taste with that sharp cheese, whatever ratio that you want to go with, and it is an incredible taste. Okay, now, I'm going to look at these playoff losses. Since I did one, check out a video we did with playoff wins. Our very first playoff loss we're going to get into was back on January 12th, 1997. It would be the second ever playoff game for the Carolina Panthers. It's in their second season. It's the one playoff loss for Dom Capers for the Panthers. And of course, after this game, the NFC Championship, we're playing Green Bay. He'll never lead us to the playoffs again. It was a game to be expected. You know, we start out early, we look good. Green Bay takes the lead, I believe, in the second quarter. They go on for a 30-13 win. It's very cold and frigid in Lambeau Field. They had definitely an advantage being in January. And they were the best team in the football year. They'd go on and beat New England in the Super Bowl. And remember, this is the pre-Tom Brady years when Green Bay had Reggie White. They had Brett Favre. They had a dominant team. And maybe if we could have squeaked out one more win in the year, maybe we would have been hosting the NFC Championship game. But needless to say, I think if we had played New England in that Super Bowl, we were the second best team in football, in my opinion, that year. But like I said, Dom Capers finishes his coaching career with the Panthers with a loss, 1-1. Now, it wasn't the last year he'd coach. Of course, he'd come back and he'd coach 2 more years. But that more or less was his last hurrah for the playoffs. Now, the best coach we ever had for playoffs, win or loss, would be John Fox. And this is kind of hard to give him a bad nod. 2003 season, February 1st, the day after my birthday, 2004. Super Bowl 38 against New England Patriots. Tom Brady's very young. Of course, he's already got a Super Bowl win against the St. Louis Rams with Kurt Warner in his pocket. But it's the game that was 29-29 as we tied it late and kicked the ball off with about 2 minutes to go. And John Casey hit the ball, and it went out of bounds. And it basically gave New England the ball almost around the 40-yard line. And they only had to drive about 25 yards down the field or so. And they kicked the game-winning field goal in the last play of the game. If he could have nailed the kickoff and maybe New England starts at their 20-25-yard line, maybe they don't get the yardage needed for a field goal. We go overtime. And like I like to think, Jake Delhomme gets in the overtime and he gets the ball first. But the way the offense was playing that day, I like my chances. We could have won that Super Bowl. It's kind of hard to blame John Fox. He had the team ready and willing to play. I could go into some conspiracies about that Super Bowl with the Patriots being allowed to practice indoors at this Houston Reliance Stadium while we had to practice outdoors in the rain all week at Rice University. Their team hotel was next to the stadium. We had to drive further away. There's talk about them videotaping our practices that week. They knew the plays coming off the field. The defense was saying. I'm not going to get into that today. This was a stinging loss, but nothing to be ashamed of. It was a 3-point loss, one of the best, most entertaining Super Bowls in the history of Super Bowls. Then the next loss comes 2005, 2 years later, January 22nd, 2006 to be exact. We go to Seattle, and this is after we've shut out the Giants in the playoffs. We've beaten Chicago at Chicago. Now we move into the NFC Championship game at Seattle. And like I said, there's a game that year we lost to Dallas. I think we should have won. They called us offsides, I believe, on a kick that was missed or blocked. And Dallas got the lineup again closer and won a game. I'd like to think with one more game that year, we wouldn't have been a wild card. We would have been, or at least hosted another, wouldn't have been in the wild card round, but hosted a playoff game. Maybe we wouldn't have some of the injuries we had. Because coming in this game, Nick Goins was hurt. We lost to Sean Foster, I believe. Steve Smith had returned kicks in that game and got a touchdown. But we were destroyed by 20 points, 34-14. Our guys were really out of gas. Seattle having a better team, I think Seattle did on this day. And especially playing in Seattle and with the injuries we had, it wasn't close. If we'd had one less game in the playoffs that year and the game would have been in Charlotte, it might have been a different story. But needless to say, that was a John Fox loss as well. Now the next loss is by John Fox as well. And this by far is the one to me that's an unacceptable loss. Probably is the most unacceptable loss I think we've had. 2008, January 10th, 2009, we lose to Arizona Cardinals, Kurt Warner, 33-13. And Larry Fitzgerald. New England had just blitzed Arizona in the snow in New England just a couple weeks earlier in the end of the season. I mean, blitzed them. We go into playoffs. I more got my eyes worried about playing Philly or someone like that. And we would have hosted the playoffs if I believe would have won this game. And we ended up shitting the bed on Jake Delhomme's birthday. He had 5 interceptions, fumbled the ball. It was, to me, by far the most disappointing game because it's a game we were favored. And like I said, if it was a game we win, I think the Giants were the team that we would have had to go to New York and play them in the NFC Championship. But they were upset, I believe, earlier in the playoffs. And we got upset at the monkey wrench in the playoff picture. But if we would have won this game, we would have hosted Philly. I think we could have won. Although Arizona did go on to beat Philly to make it to the Super Bowl, had an entertaining Super Bowl against Pittsburgh and almost won. But in this game, it was a home playoff game. I understand the loss at Seattle with the injuries. Even understand the loss in the Super Bowl. It was tick for tack. It was back and forth. This 20-point embarrassment at Arizona, they just jumped out on us and were better that day. I think if we play the game the next day or the next week, we beat them with no problem. But here we go again. It's another 20-point loss by John Fox in the playoffs. And John Fox is going to finish his playoff record at 5-3. Now, 2013, We reached the Ron Rivera stage of the playoffs, January 12, 2014. Now, this is a year we started out 1-3, and Marty Herney got fired. We had lost to Buffalo in Buffalo. Josh Norman got benched, and heads were going to roll because Rivera could never seem to turn it around. This is his third year. You know, he goes 6-10, 7-9. Now he's 1-3. He's on a hot seat. Jerry Richardson kept him on as the coach. He ends up winning 11 out of 12, becomes coach of the year this year. But we get to the playoffs. We got a bye. San Fran wins the game. They come into Charlotte, which is a game we should win. I don't like how the referees ref the game. I think we got out-coached. Ron Rivera got out-coached in this game. It was his first playoff game as a head coach, and we lose 23-10 to San Fran. And that was definitely a disappointing loss, one I didn't see coming. Not as disappointing as a loss to Arizona, but nonetheless a disappointing loss. Now, next Ron Rivera playoff loss, 2014, very next year, January 10th, 2015. Playoff loss to Seattle. Now here's a team now, they've beaten us twice in the playoffs. It's the only team that has beaten us more than once in our playoff history. We lose 31-17. Now this is a season here, we finished 7-8-1, we'd beaten Arizona, we had some injuries. I just feel, you know, we were overmatched. Seattle was the better team. There's no doubt about it. And they had our number at the time. And, you know, it was like 24-17 late, I believe, and we're trying to go down and tie the score, if I'm not mistaken. And Cam throws a pick six. But didn't have a lot of help that day at receiver. And we definitely could see it on the field. And, you know, we got what we're going to get handed to us was a loss. Now, the next one, to me, is the hardest loss of them all. To me, it's the second most non-understandable loss in franchise history in the playoffs. It's the most important because it's the Super Bowl, and it meant the most. But if you really knock every one of these games down, I still think the Arizona Cardinal game we lost to with John Fox as head coach was the one I just didn't see coming. But February 7th, 2016, Super Bowl 50, we're 15-1, only lost one game by 7 points to Atlanta late in the season. I think the day after Christmas, and we were so close to being undefeated. We were favored in this game by Denver. And it wasn't like Peyton Manning set the world on fire. But when you have a botched punt, the punter and special teams messes up, and they return the ball inside the 10, and their defense held up, only giving up a field goal. Of course, Mike Remmers just lets Von Miller go by him and sacks Cam, and they get a touchdown on the fumble recovery early in the game. Then, of course, he fumbled the ball. Everybody says he should have picked it up. I don't see it that way. Don't think he didn't want to pick it up. I just think the ball was moving around. It was kind of awkward. And, of course, they got 8 points off that final drive to seal the game. But there's 18 out of 24 points. Really, our defense did not give up. And we gave up 2 field goals to Peyton Manning, more or less, so to speak, if it wasn't for special teams and their defense playing so well. But we shit the bed in this game. And it's a game with the turnovers. And, you know, even Mike Tolbert had a terrible turnover in Denver territory. Graham Gano had a field goal that was missed. Just did not play well. And Ron Rivera did not game plan well and did not change up anything. And it really cost us. And that's when you got to reach for a box of vanilla wafers and some sharp cheese and eat it and say, that tastes good. You can kind of swallow that bitterness with that. But it was definitely a game that, one game if I wanted to go back and replay, that's the one because that meant the most. It was our Super Bowl. Then our last playoff loss, 2017, January 7th, 2018, 31-26 loss at New Orleans, and New Orleans swept us that year in 3 games. We had a good record that year, 11-5. I know we lost to New Orleans twice in the regular season. I think we might have lost to Atlanta once, which is pretty much standard par if we don't get swept by them. And we lost a couple other close games that year. And it was a shame because we had a really good team. And this is another team that Cam Newton, he carried on his back, folks. And we almost pulled out the victory. Legadoo Nene or whoever it was in the end zone in the first quarter, it might not have been him. I can't remember. It was somebody dropped the pass in the end zone that was wide open early on. We had to settle for a field goal. Olsen missed a pass in the end zone. He had some injuries. The one that killed us at the end was Devin Funchess. He had one hand. He was playing with one arm, basically, and he was interfered with. But he still should have cradled the ball and caught it. We could have won the game. And we just didn't have enough, and we'd lose that game to Sean Payton, the Devil, 31-26. And Ron Rivera finishes his playoff record at 3-4 for the Panthers. And we'll see what Matt Rule does. Hopefully he'll get us to the playoffs. So two things to take away from our losses in the playoffs. Number one, February hasn't been kind to us. And, of course, February is Super Bowl month. So we're 0-2 in February. And the other thing is, Seattle hasn't been good to us. We played them 3 times in the playoffs. They've beaten us twice. The only team to beat us twice in the playoffs. And secondly, January 10th is not a good day for us in playoff history because we have lost 2 games on January the 10th. As well, I want to go back and look at and say we've also, yes, lost 2 games on January the 12th. So you get around January 10th and January 12th, they're not good to have playoff games. And we'll break through one day and win a Super Bowl hopefully in February. So guys, tell me what you think. Please go out and get some Nilla Wafers. Get some sharp cheese. Get the sharp cheese. Try that out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit on that like button. Hit the bell notification to be notified for future content like this. Please subscribe, folks. It don't cost anything. And we'll see you next time on another edition of Carolina Sports Guy.